Welcome to Ellen's Keynotes Study Streak, and it is day 16. We discussed about the Kali group of remedies yesterday, and just let me adjust. Okay. And we saw that in Kali group there was a mention, especially in Kali Carb, there was a mention of Carbo Veg as the complementary remedies. So we'll take up Carbo Veg, but there is a remedy which is underused along with Carbo Veg, or it looks similar to Carbo Veg. You can say it's a chili remedy from the carbon group itself, and that is Carbo animalis. So we'll take up Carbo animalis first. Diseases of elderly persons with marked venous plethora, blue cheeks, blue lips and great debility, circulation feeble, stagnated, vital heat sinks to a minimum, cyanosis. And in bracket you see two remedies mentioned, one is antimtart, one is Carbo Veg. So in cases where there is lot of loss of vital fluids, but generally in the life history of patient, if the patient is chilly or has been chilly, you can think of Carbo animalis. If I have seen most of the times that whenever we have an acute case, and if that acute episode is repeated, okay, just focus on these few lines and this is going to help you a lot. The way you treat acutes has to change, and if it is not you are not stuck to any method, or you are not stuck to any prejudices, well and good. So if you have any patient with acute symptoms and you feel that you need to give XYZ remedy, before giving the remedy, just ask the patient what were the previous acute episodes he suffered. And number one, you have to ask what were the previous acute episodes that he suffered. Was it similar or was it different? And second thing what you need to ask is, as a constitutionally the patient, how does he react to cold and hot and the physical generals. You need not take the entire mind history, but you take just the key physical generals and see that if the patient has repeated acutes. If he doesn't have acutes, like it's like a map. If he doesn't have any repeated acutes, it's the first time he is having, go ahead and give the medicine what is indicated. If he has repeated acute episodes which are similar to the one he comes with presenting, take a few physical generals from the constitutional remedy or from the constitutional point of view, and then if you see a predisposition towards chilliness or hot, decide a remedy based upon the thermals. If you see predisposition to excess thirst, less thirst, as a physical general, as a whole constitution, not in the acute, think about a remedy which has this feature. Why I am telling this? Because when persons have repeated acute episodes, you tend to give medicine which is based upon that phase. It is correct, no doubt, but there will be few remedies that will come in that ambit of acute presentation. And if you touch the remedy, number one, which should be complementary to your constitutional if the patient is under chronic treatment, and number two, it should match some of the constitutional features so that it prevents a recurrence of the acute phenomena. You can of course top it up, or I say always in all these sessions that you should give the constitutional remedy exactly after the acute episode or a few days after, so that the repetition is prevented. That is also another way. But why I came to this point is that when we see something mentioned in Carbo animalis in Ellen's keynotes, You will see it is mentioned circulation feeble, stagnated vital heat, sinks to a minimum, cyanosis. Two remedies mentioned in bracket are Entimtat, Carboveg. So you have a patient who is like chilly in generally in his constitution, and he does not have any strength left. There is lot of weakness. He has come to you requiring medical help, medicines for loss of vital fluids, diarrhea, or he's having lot of weaknesses, and you think that it's almost like I need to get him admitted. Diseases of elderly persons with marked venous plethora, blue cheeks, blue lips, and great debility. And if the person was generally chilly, think about Carbo animals. Hot, think about Carbo veg. Aversion to open, dry, cold air. Benign suppurations change into ichorous or malignant conditions. Easily strained from lifting, even small weights, strain or overlifting produce great debility. We have seen a similar presentation in rust ox when I discussed about bryonia, phytolacca and rust ox. So these three remedies we discussed together, and in rust ox we have this phenomena of getting easily sprained. Carbo animalis is one of the other remedies. Headache as if a tornado in the head, as if head had been blown to pieces, has to sit up at night and hold it together. It is such bad. Same presentation you will also see in clonoine. Hearing confused, cannot tell from which direction the sound is coming. This will happen in cases of deafness, or progressing to sensory neural deafness, and other cases. Glands are indurated, swollen, painful in the neck, axillae, groin, mammary. Everywhere there is induration of glands. Pains are lancinating, cutting, burning like conium. Next we read about Carbo animalis from Allen's keynotes. A stitching pain remains in chest after recovering from pleurisy, like the remedy Ranunculus bulbosus. Ankles turn when walking. Joints weak, easily sprained by slight exertion. If you have been a part of the Allen's keynote study streak, today is day 16, and if you have studied the previous remedies, if you have gone over it, over here we see the mention of Ledampal, and it is the easy spraining or joint weak is mentioned in Carbo animalis. So Carbo animalis and Ledam are the two remedies. But if you study the remedies in a streak and you know your materia medica well, there are many remedies which act on the ankles. One of the remedies is natrum carb also, which has predisposition to act on those areas. Going further, we have after appearance of menses, patient is so weak that she can hardly speak. So you will have some patients who have severe dysmenorrhea, who cannot bear the least pains, and they get weak by the pains. Think about Carbo animalis. Alumina and cocculus are the other two remedies mentioned, and menses flow only in the morning. One of the peculiar ways to pick up a key symptom of a patient, which will help you prescribe a constitutional remedy, is also asking them about the menstrual history. Is it in the morning? Is it in the night? Is it only one day? Is it only 2 days? Is it more when walking? Is it more when lying down? Etc. etc. And this, if you remember the remedies for each of these, you have the remedy in front of you. It is a very, very, very strong indicator to give a constitutional remedy to a patient, and you will have a case at one hand which is having so many remedies confusing you, and you will have that one physical general which is so peculiar that everything else in the case is ruled out, and you focus on that and you see everything opening up from that angle when you know about the remedy which has this peculiar symptom of menstrual history. And another thing what we see in carbo animal is mentioned in Allen's keynotes is menstruation, leukorrhea, diarrhea are all exhausting. If it is offensive, all the discharge is offensive, think of remedy sorinum. If it is exhausting, all the discharges are exhausting, think about carbo animalis, think about arsenic, think about veratrum. General aggravation for carbo animalis is after shaving. Better after shaving is bromium, and I rarely found this symptom anyone telling me. Slightest touch aggravates carbo animalis, after midnight aggravates carbo animalis. Now we come to the relationship, and in relationship we see the mention of two remedies complementary to carbo animalis and phosphorus. Whenever you see the mention of some complementary remedies, and if they are a bigger remedy, most frequently prescribed, and when you have those patients in the clinic, for example, I will see a calcarea carb patient today or a phosphorus patient today, and if he develops an acute which is kind of very debilitating him, which makes him weak, I'll think of one of the remedies which is carbo animalis. So there are many satellites, like for calcarea carb we discussed in the calcarea carb session. There are satellites which is belladonna, rustox. Okay, these are the two acute satellites. You will read Clark, you will find them. But these are not the only two. There is calibichromicum, there is borax, there are different remedies based upon the sphere of action and the area affected. So you need to think about those satellite remedies surrounding the main remedy. If you have the main remedy clear, you will be able to prescribe the patient the satellite remedies in their acutes, or it can be vice versa. If you have the satellite remedies prescribed to the patient in acutes, you can go to the main remedy and prescribe the main remedy as a constitutional when the time is there for giving constitutional medicine. Suppose a patient comes to you in acute, you will give one of the satellite remedies. You gave belladonna, you gave rustox, you gave borax, you gave calibichromicum. But now he felt better, he came to you, you gave carbo animalis, and now he felt better, he came to you with symptoms which are more constitutionally affecting him in nature, dragging since a long time. Then you can go and think about carbo animal, you can think about calcarea carb, you can think about phosphorus, like that, right? So my only view is that if we think about a constitutional remedy, from the constitutional remedy to the acute remedies, we can also think vice versa, but you should know how to do that. Okay, it's a challenge, but once you develop that tactic, it's very flexible, it's very easy, and homeopathy becomes a joy more than a task. Okay, if it's joy, it's going to kind of give you that happy moment every time. Carbo animalis from Allen's keynotes is mentioned similar to Badiaga, bromium, carbovage, phosphorus, sepia, sulfur. Carbo animalis is often useful after bad effects from spoiled fish and decayed vegetables. You see, in this weather of dampness, many patients will end up in your clinic with some gastric disturbances. If they are predisposed to getting affected by cold, think about carbo animalis. If they are predisposed to affected by hot weather, think about carbo veg. Spoiled vegetables, decayed vegetables, spoiled fish, carbo veg, carbo animalis, allium cepa. These three can be thought. More or less you can think about carbo veg and carbon remedies. Next remedy we have is carbo vegetabilis from Allen's keynotes. Ailments from quinine, especially suppressed intermittents, abuse of mercury, salt and salt meats. Again you see ailments from spoiled fish, ailments from meat, ailments from fats, ailments from getting overeated. We saw this also in antim crude. This is one of the remedies mentioned. Now when will a state predisposed to antim-crude? When will a state predisposed to carbo veg? We read about antim-crude. The patients are very irritable. They will become irritable from slightest cause. Everything annoys them. They cannot bear to be touched or seen or talked to. Whereas in the carbo veg state, you will have the exactly opposite. There is no response, or there is a dull response. No response comes at a very later stage. There is something in homeopathy that you should know about the remedies, the stages. If you expect a carbo veg patient coming to you in a lifeless condition, it's not going to happen. He is not in that stage. You have to understand the remedies in stages, what symptoms are shown to you, what symptoms may happen if the situation deteriorates, and if his vitality is strong, he is maintained to that level. So there will be a dull response, or he'll feel a bit of dull drowsy. That will predispose to carbo vegetabilis. For the bad effects of exhausting diseases, whether in young or old, China, phosphorus or sorinum are the other remedies mentioned. Weakness of memory, slowness of thought. So this is your confirmatory symptom. This can be visible when you take the case. They will maybe share slowly, they may not have the energy to share, or they will themselves tell that I have no energy but I am exerting to share. Or you can confirm with them. Persons who have never recovered fully from the exhausting effects of some previous illness, now consider any major illnesses like asthma, pertussis of childhood, indigestion from drinking alcohol, or some injury or some typhoid cases, who have never recovered from that, they have been exhausted. Carbo veg is one of the remedies. If it is especially typhoid, think about sorinum also. I have at times given doses of typhoidinum 1m also intercurrent in such patients who have had typhoid. This prevents the formation of gallbladder stones. Read the pathophysiology, you will get to know why typhoid predisposes to gallbladder stones and why you need to give typhoidinum. Bad effects from loss of vital fluids, like the remedy caustic gum. Hemorrhage from any broken down conditions of mucous membranes, China and phosphorus. Patients crave things that make them sick. Old torpors crave whiskey or brandy, want clothing loose around the abdomen. Vital powers are nearly exhausted, desire to be constantly fanned. In the later stages or the last stages of the disease, carbo veg is indicated. With copious cold sweat, cold breath, cold tongue, voice loss, this remedy may save a life. Now this is very, very, very close to the remedy Veratrum album. So general coldness will make you think of carbo veg. Coldness only on the forehead will make you think of Veratrum album. It is like ice cold. It is kind of more cold than the entire body. Whereas in carbo veg it will be generally cold. Next we have awakens often with cold limbs and suffers from cold knees at night, like the remedy Apis mellifica. Hippocratic face, very pale, greyish, yellow, greenish, cold with cold sweat after hemorrhage. So after any fluids or debility or discharges have happened, there is coldness on cold sweat. This should give you a thought of carbo veg. Looseness of teeth, easily bleeding gums. Hoarseness aggravated in the evenings. Damp evening air, warm wet weather, voice fails when exerted, especially in the evening. If it is in the morning, think about the remedy causticum. Weak digestion, simplest food disagrees, excessive accumulation of gas in the stomach and intestines, aggravated by lying down. After eating or drinking, sensation as if stomach would burst, इतना fullness हो गया है कि I can't explain कितना भारी लग रहा है. Effects of a debauch, late suppers, rich food. So those who have late breakfast, kind of a brunch, they should be given carbo veg, because they are fasting for a long time, and they have accumulation of gas in their stomach. So we have some query from Dr. Priyanka on YouTube that please differentiate between CAM4 carbo veg in the collapse stage. Sure, I'll try that. So we have further, eructations give temporary relief. So in all the cases where there is gastric disturbance, I always ask whether there is a better by giving relief, by giving eructations out. If they say yes, carbo veg. If they say no, my next question is, do you feel better by walking about? The remedy is China officinalis. Boric, stomach, last line, bloatedness, better by movement, China officinalis. Go and read, you will never forget. Going further, we have in carbo veg, frequent involuntary cadaverous smelling stools, followed by burning soft stool voided with difficulty, like the remedy alumina. Epistaxis in daily attacks for weeks, worse from exertion, face pale before as well as after a hemorrhage. Hemorrhage from any mucous outlet in systems broken down, debilitated, blood oozes from weakened tissues, vital force exhausted. Diseases of venous system predominant. Now, one of the most underused remedies for all cases which have venous disturbances or venous stasis, one of the most underused remedies is sulfur. Sulfur is mentioned in bracket over here for with carbo vegetables. So we think sulfur is only for psoric state. We think only it is for kind of as an intercurrent. We don't give it as a constitutional remedy, but it is equally important remedy. We can think about it in certain constitutions. Constitutions need not necessarily be someone who is not keeping himself well, who is dirty, who is rag philosopher. It can mean that there are some components of sulfur which are present. For example, there can be hungry at forenoon, gastric disturbance, and there is venous stasis, there is varicose ulcers. Those three things even may predispose you to think about the remedy sulfur. So in carbo veg we have symptoms of imperfect oxidation system, diseases of venous system predominate. Symptoms of imperfect oxidation, we have the remedy mentioned also. The remedy is argentum nitricum. Deficient capillary circulation causes blueness of the skin and coldness of the extremity. So I spoke to you about how it is having coldness, and it will be a generalized coldness more than just the coldness of the forehead. Carbo veg has aggravation from butter, pork, fat food, abuse of quinine, bark, mercury, from singing or reading aloud in warm damp weather. Amelioration from eructation and being fanned. Relations, we have the remedy carbo veg. For carbo veg we have kali carb. So in cases where you have given kali carb, think about carbo veg as a kind of a complementary remedy. Or if the cure has stuck up after giving kali carb, if the cure has stuck up, think about carbo veg after kali carb. It will kind of complement and push kali carb action to work more effectively. In fact, there is another remedy also which is similar or kind of, I would say, complementary to carbo veg, which is phosphorus. So if you go in Gibson Miller's chart of remedies, which is given behind boric, behind Kent repertory, it says that there is a remedy named as phosphorus which has complementary remedies carbo veg. Other two remedies are also arsenic and allium cepa. So once you have these in the back of your mind, it becomes very easy to journey from one remedy to the other and help the patient reach the cure faster, rather than just stick up to one remedy and go nowhere. Okay. There is want of susceptibility to well selected remedies in Carbo-Veg, like the remedies opium and valeriana. We have to compare Carbo-Veg with China. I spoke about the gastric symptom. We have to compare Carbo-Veg with plumbum, especially neglected pneumonia, especially in patients who are old and predisposed to taking alcohol. And Carbo-Veg is similar to Antimtart in threatened paralysis because there is inability to bring out the mucus. In opium, when well selected remedies fail to act or permanently improve, we can think of opium, valeriana and Carbo-Veg. I don't know why it comes again. Phosphorus is similar in easily bleeding ulcers. Carbo-Veg is similar to pulsatilla in complaints from eating pastry, fat food, and similar to sulfur. Acrid smelling menstrual flow is there in it with erysipelas of mammon. This is what is mentioned in Allen's keynotes. So going over your question, Dr. Priyanka, about camphora. So the first thing is that both will have coldness, but in Carbo-Veg you will see that there is seat of the disease is either gastric or venous, whereas in camphora it will mostly be from a shock. It can be skin or it can be a generalized shock that has jolted the body suddenly. It can be fever, it can be viral illness, it can be gastric also. We have I don't know what remedies you gave in COVID or what remedies the other homeopaths who are attending this session gave in COVID, but I had mostly prescribed camphora to everyone and got really superb results. There was a study by Dr. Rajan Shankaran. I guess if you don't have the access, you can just Google it and find it out in YouTube or some social media, where there was a long study done by Dr. Rajan Shankaran for the effectiveness of camphor in COVID-19, and it has worked beautifully. So there was a sudden shock to the body from viral illness which causes the disease. So you will have to understand the onset, duration, progress. If you want to learn to differentiate Carbo-Veg and camphora or Carbo-Veg and Antimtart, you have to understand how the disease has started, origin, duration, progress, how fast it has progressed, what are the areas affected, and then maybe and what is the constitution of the patient. Like I spoke in the first part, you have to see what has been generally affecting the patient when he is in normal health, and this will give you more effective results than just thinking about the remedies XYZ because it is coming in my repertorization. It is the only remedy mentioned in Materia Medica, or some speaker told me in this so and so seminar, or there are hundreds of self-proclaimed successful homeopaths and they are telling. But you need to prove yourself in the clinic and then act on it. It's like prove all things and hold fast that which is good, rather than just believing someone and going on it. So that's it from me right now, and I hope it may answer your question partially, but when we cover camphora in detail, or maybe I will put up, I'm planning to do some series of comparison of remedies. Once we finish the Allen's keynotes, we'll just take on the remedies and do a comparison from different books. So stay tuned, and maybe I'll note this down and we'll compare camphora and Carbo-Veg from different different repertories, my own cases which I gave in COVID-19 and Carbo-Veg cases, and from the Materia Medicas. So we finish this with today with Carbo animalis and Carbo veg, and let's see you all tomorrow on day 17 of Alan Skinner's study streak.